Now to Premier's picks here on the Green Zone. It's you against the Premier this season, and you're tied up at 22 right now. So text in, who are your four winners this week? BC Calgary, Edmonton against Hamilton, Ottawa against Saskatchewan, Winnipeg in Montreal. So text 306-306 with your four winners, and it's majority rules for the fan vote. And right now tied against this man, the Premier of the province, Brad Wall. Premier Wall, how are you?
I'm excellent, guys. Thanks for not dumping me from the show for being late again.
That's fine. You're a busy guy. I can completely understand that.
If you guys were Tom Coughlin, I'd have been off this team weeks ago. Weeks ago.
Woodsy's a Giants fan. You're just
Can you believe that he not only does he make that call, but Eli apparently told Jennings not to score.
I read that.
I guess I think he didn't know how many timeouts they had. He thought they had 2. They only had 1. And I'm going, what? And the New York Post, I don't know if you've seen the tabloids, but they're just devouring them.
Oh, well, it's such a tough city for that to happen. And I wasn't even, this is how sensitive Giants fans are, Jamie, because I wasn't even talking about the debacle against the Cowboys. I was referencing years ago, and I think it was Strahan that finally sort of broke the news to everybody that Coughlin was a stickler for time. And if you weren't there, the meeting room door was locked and you couldn't come to meetings.
Coughlin would change the clocks 15 minutes forward.
That's right.
And expect you to be there on time. So he'd move the clock from, it would be 12:15 real time, but he'd move it to 12:30, and it was like, oh, you're 15 minutes late. No, my watch says 12:15.
That's right.
Well, in your world, it's 12:15. In my world, it's not.
Maybe he was thinking he could do that at the end of the game against the Cowboys. Yeah, there's a $1:43 on the clock, but I'll just move it ahead.
I heard he's relaxed a little bit, but
I think he did. But that's a tough one. And everybody's a Monday morning quarterback in this thing, or Tuesday morning quarterbacking, whatever. Where Eli just sits down and takes the sack and 45 seconds burn off, and
you just run the ball.
Run the ball. What gets me is how these guys that have won Super Bowls and are thought to be geniuses and bright offensive minds, like Tom Coughlin, like Pete Carroll, and they make bonehead decisions. I don't know whether the pressure. You look at Pete Carroll and decision to short kick to open overtime. Just you wonder.
It's even if you got all that experience, I can speak firsthand. Even if you have a little bit of experience, you make boneheaded decisions, I guess, from time to time. But it's tough if you're a G-Man fan.
Yeah.
It's tough.
That was one that the Giants really needed, because they're not going to probably win that many this year. And there was one that they had, and just
pretty
opportunistic
on defense. And honestly, I'm a Raiders fan. Jamie's a Raiders fan. If someone said, "All right there, fancy pants, you're all critical of the New York Giants," would you switch spots in terms of your teams?
Well, I'm blaming Eli. I'm blaming Eli Manning to tell I think he told the Oakland Raiders not to score over the weekend too. So I blame Eli Manning for that one, because they darn near got themselves shut out against the Cincinnati Bungles.
Good point.
Premier Brad Wall with us here on Premier's Picks. You and the Premier are tied at 22 points, and that's when I say you, I mean you, the fans, as we get your vote at 306-306. Who do you got this week? BC against Calgary, Edmonton, Hamilton, Ottawa, Saskatchewan, Winnipeg, Montreal. Premier Wall, what do you think of the local football club going with Kevin Glenn as the starter over Brett Smith this week?
After I weighed in last week on your show, on this great show, and said that I thought starting Kevin Glenn would be a good idea. And then I listened to the arguments, yours argument, Woodsy's argument, and several unsolicited opinions on the Twitter. I started to change my mind. I thought, well, maybe we just keep going with Brett. It's just the season's basically over. The Riders have made a calculation that they are not out of it, that they truly can make the playoffs. I get the call. It's kind of a leap though with the record. I guess that's the rationale.
Yeah, but you can't understand it, can't you? I mean, if you're thinking about long-term development, then you go with a kid like Brett Smith. But these guys don't. They're not trained to think about long-term. They're thinking about winning football games. And while there is still a mathematical chance, it's pretty tough to go into that room and not put the people on the field to give you the best chance to win it while you still have a shot, as minuscule as it might be.
That's the rationale. I mean, how do you explain to John Chick wants to win the game? Well, they all want to win the game on offense and defense, and so they'd all be thinking, I know they all love Brett Smith. They like the new quarterback, but they're probably thinking that who gives us the best chance to get a win, and it's probably Glenn, I would say.
Let's get to Premier's picks here on the Green Zone. Again, you can text us at 306-306. The Fans and the Premier up against it. It's still tied at 22-22. The Fans, usually the Fans and Premier are pretty on pace, but last week the Premier had Hamilton, Saskatchewan, Calgary, Ottawa. The Fans had Hamilton, Saskatchewan, Edmonton, and BC. However, it all led to a split anyways, and you both went 2 for 4. So Correct. You're still at 22-22. Gary Nickel, who's also the fan zone vote, was 1 for 4 last week.
Tough one.
Nailed it.
Yeah,
just nailed it.
As you went Hamilton, Saskatchewan, Calgary, and British Columbia, someone on the panel was 3 for 4 and extended the lead over everybody on Premier's picks.
Self high five once again by Jamie Nye.
I have a bruise on my back from patting it so hard. Let's get to game number 1, Premier Wall, BC in Calgary.
Stamps.
With ease, the Calgary Stampeders. John Cornish could also be back. Gary Nickel?
I was reading that today. Isn't that special?
Yes, I believe it is special, Mr. Premier. And because of that, the Fan Zone will also be taking the Stamps.
Let's get to the other, I think, the game of the week. Edmonton in Hamilton. Mike Riley back, looked good last week and went over the Calgary Stampeders. Now they have to go to Tim Hortons Field. Who wins in the donut this week, Premier Walt?
Fighty, angry Coach Kent Austin's Ticats win.
Have you ever put the shoulder into the back of a cabinet minister or anything like that?
No, I know, and I coached minor football, and of course there was none of that going on. Just kids taking runs at the coaches, maybe.
Okay. Their own coach for not playing them or
That's
something.
Right.
Gary, who do you got?
Coach, absolutely.
The Fan Zone takes the Ticats as well. We like that feistiness that old Kent's showing out there.
The Fan Zone's kind of a feisty show, though. I get the pick, Gary. I mean, you guys
That's right.
You're scrappy. You're feisty.
We're big fans of guys that like to mix it up a little bit, and
right.
Kent showed that, so he earned our vote, so we're going to go with him.
I get that choice.
Can't do it, but it's at Tim Hortons Field, and I'm still going with the Hamilton Tiger Cats.
Hesitantly. It was going to be an upset special
Hesitantly. Let's go to the Ottawa Red Blacks against the Saskatchewan Rough Riders at Mosaic Premier Wall.
Riders.
Gary?
Red Blacks.
Ottawa. The Fan Zone turning their back on the Rough Riders after one loss. Well, 10 losses.
We have
Anyways,
enough losses already. We don't keep adding to that, do we?
I'm going to go with the Rough Riders at home. Kevin Glenn gets the win this week. 2-10 after this week as we get to the final game, the Winnipeg Blue Bombers against, I don't know even who's their offensive coordinator anymore, who's playing quarterback, but the Montreal Alouettes will field a team on Sunday against Winnipeg. Premier Wall.
Yeah, I don't know. How about this one? I think I'll go with the Bombers.
I'm going with the Montreal Alouettes because I think their defense will outscore everybody in this one. Gary?
Well, the Fan Zone, as always, we like to look smart, and by doing that, we will follow Mr. Premier and also take the Bombers.
There you have it. Premier Wall going Calgary, Hamilton, Saskatchewan, and Winnipeg. We'll review next week.
I just want to say one more prediction. In a fantasy league that I may or may not be participating in, I'll make this prediction. Canada's Carbon Diplomats will win over second places for losers.
All right. Who's the quarterback for the Canadian, whatever that was?
For the Canada
Diplomats?
It's going to be Andrew Luck, who's going to have a huge bounce-back game.
I like that
game after the debacle in Buffalo.
There you have it. Premier Wall. I'll write that down. The Canadian
Carbon Diplomat. It's kind of a clumsy name.
Okay.
We can talk about that on the Fan Zone.
Yes.
We should. It's a holdover from minor football when our teams were like, the Swift Plumbing and Heating Golden Gophers. I like the long names.
Premier Wall will review next week your selections this week on Premier's Picks.
Take care, guys.
There is Premier Brad Wall. Now you can weigh in at 306-306. You've heard the Premier. Now you can vote. Who do you got between BC, Calgary, Edmonton, Hamilton, Ottawa against Saskatchewan, and Winnipeg, Montreal? Text 306-306. The fans vote